Our All-Stars bring you the inside knowledge for your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back, Dunc Holder. Joining us each and every Wednesday. Will Guillory covers the Pelicans from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Will, you keep seeing this thing rise and rise and rise, and we're wondering when this thing's going to stop. And won 9 in a row. What has been the key element, I'm going to say outside of Anthony Davis? Obviously, he's a key element.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think the obvious answer is Anthony Davis and just how crazy he's been during this win streak. But I think another underestimated part of the win streak has been the play of Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday, that backcourt tandem that the Pelicans invested in early. And they this is what they really envisioned. Maybe not Drew Holiday playing this well, but they thought that bringing in Rondo would kind of unleash everything that Drew can do as a defender, as a scorer, as a guy that can handle the ball, instead of just putting himself in a box of being the point guard that feeds Anthony Davis, and they were hoping to, obviously, DeMarcus Cousins, but they wanted him to be a guy that can go get you 20 points, that can defend the other team's best player. And having Rondo playing at the level he is right now is kind of bringing out everything that they hope to see out of Drew Holiday, and that's a big part of this winning streak as well.
Yeah, Will, one of the things I got up this morning, did a lot of research on this winning streak, and we talked about it earlier. The Pelicans, during this 10-game winning streak, are averaging 100 field goal attempts a game. They were averaging 85 a game before that, or during the season. But their turnover rate is down 3 a game. Don't you think that has a lot to do with Rondo, the ball going through him? I know they do a lot of two-man game with Drew and Anthony, but also just Rondo's ball, possession and him taking care of the ball better seems like it's made them more efficient offensively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think overall he's just been playing better than he was earlier in this year. I think part of it was that the Pelicans had the long-term view in mind. They wanted to make sure he was healthy going into the playoffs. So that was part of the reason why you saw some of those games where he would play like 14 minutes, or he would play part of the first quarter and not play at all in the second quarter. I think part of that was he obviously wasn't playing as well, but I think they wanted to keep him healthy for the long term. And now you see him kind of ramping up everything he wants to do heading into the playoffs. And he's playing his best basketball of the season. And like I said, I think he's fitting in so well with Drew Holiday, and he's hitting Anthony on so many of these alley-oop plays. And he's fitting perfectly with this team, and he's giving them everything they need, especially from a pace standpoint. And that's what makes this Pelicans team so dangerous going into the playoffs, is that they play at such a fast pace. They get Anthony Davis running up and down the court, Drew Holiday, Darius Miller, Etuan Moore, all of these shooters, and they can just create easy looks, as much as they need to, just because they don't go against set defenses as much as other teams, and they're putting up 120 on a nightly basis just because they're getting up and down. They're getting so many guys shots, and it's difficult to stop this team when Rondo is playing this well. And I think his defense has been a big part of it as well. His defense wasn't really good earlier in the season, but he's really made a big commitment on that end.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Totally off Pelicans topic, but I thought maybe the Blazers might be a team that would plummet. What are they doing? Because now we've got to keep an eye on them, because they are the Pelicans. The fact that we're talking about chasing the 3 seed, the Blazers are there. What have they been doing so well? Maybe is it Damian Lillard's been having this monster run just as Anthony Davis has been having a monster run?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, if it wasn't for Anthony Davis and the way he's been playing, I think much of the NBA world will be talking about Damian Lillard and what he's doing right now for the Blazers. I think he's just been incredible, especially the way he's played in the fourth quarter for the Blazers, kind of carrying them to a couple wins here during their own win streak. And it's just, I think they've really figured out how to make that Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum backcourt work. Obviously, both of those guys are two really potent scorers, but they have to figure out how to get those guys to score and also play defense on the other end. And I think that's really the big improvement they've made this year has been on the defensive end. They're really getting stops more often than they did last year. And Dame Lillard, he said it himself. He thinks he's having the best season of his career. He's putting up incredible scoring nights over the past few games. And just having that guy, the way it's the same thing with the Pelicans. When you have a guy playing at that high of a level, it lets everybody else on the team kind of fall into their place, and they can say, hey, this guy carry us scoring, so we could just do everything else to kind of supplement what he needs to bring the best out of him. And that's been a big part of the Pelicans' success, and it's been a big part of the Blazers' success as well.
Well, there was one point in the game last night that really piqued my interest, and I think it was maybe in the second quarter. I think it was right. It was the second or third quarter, and I think Drew hit like 3 shots in a row, but it was the different types of ways that I think he was able to get involved, and specifically the last way, because I think he had gotten the ball one time, drove down, got a layup, got the ball again, and then hit a mid-range jumper. And then on the third play, I think it was very interesting. So Mirotic got the rebound, took the ball, raced up the court, stopped, looked for the next guy, and it was Drew Holiday again, behind 3, step back 3, in transition, hits it, and I think the Clippers call a timeout after that. Can you talk a little bit about how you see guys like him and the rest of some of the newer pieces feeling more comfortable in how this offense is being run? Because clearly, when they're on fire and they're running all cylinders like that, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Drew's playing with an extremely high level of confidence on the offensive end, and it's crazy to kind of see where he is now compared to where he was last year around this time when Boogie initially came around, and he was really hesitant about when he could take his shots. He was turning the ball over. He was shooting it at a pretty low percentage, and now I don't know if it's the braids or what's going on, but, I mean, the guy is just feeling himself right now, and he's hitting shots all over the place. And like you pointed out, I think one of the biggest reasons behind his success is that he's able to he can score from so many different areas on the court. He's hitting his jumper. He's one of the best mid-range shooters at the guard position around the league. He can post you up. He gets to the paint. He's not getting to the free throw line as much as a lot of guys, but I think the way he can kind of attack guards in so many different ways is difficult to find a good matchup for him, because if you put a smaller guard on him, then he's going to bring him down into the paint and try to score in the post. If you put a bigger guard on him, then he'll go and pick and roll and try to drive past him to get to the rim. So it's just so difficult to kind of figure out how to stop him when you also have to put so much attention on Anthony Davis as well. At such a high level, that's a big reason why this offense has turned into, one of the best in the league.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Okay, they take on Sacramento tonight. We're to the point where they assume they win every game, but this would be a game whether they won 7 of their last 9. We would assume that they would win. And then they come back home for a 3-game home stretch starting against the Wizards. Will, is there a point? I'm trying not to be just ridiculous with this question, but when's the next game do you think you see them losing?
I think tonight, like you said, tonight will be really interesting to see how they handle it, especially considering AD had the rib injury last night, to see how he kind of bounces back from that. If they can get some more help from that bench unit. The bench unit didn't really play well last night. They're going to obviously need those guys tonight playing on the second night of a back-to-back. But if they can get past this one, I think the Washington one will be really interesting, because obviously Washington has been playing well. They've fallen off a little bit as of late, but they're a really good team. And that Utah game on Sunday is the one I really have circled, because that'll be another one with playoff implications on the line. Utah came into New Orleans last time they played and kind of spanked the Pelicans, put up 133 points on them with Donovan Mitchell not even doing that much. So I think the Sacramento game would be really interesting, but if they can get past that one, I think the Utah game will be one where you really see this team tested. And maybe they won't be able to score 120 the way they have throughout this streak against that Utah team, and we'll see how they can react to that, and they can still find a way to win that game.
Well, the one thing that I think is interesting to me, we've all heard and maybe even harbored our own criticisms of Alvin Gentry throughout his tenure here, but in my opinion, since Cousins has gone down, I think he's done some of his best work. And to me, he seems like he is settled now on a rotation. It looks like they're 8 deep. They use Cheikh Diallo and Walt Lemon a little bit for cameo to save some minutes for some guys. But for the most part, this has become an 8-man rotation, and it seems to be working. Everybody knows their role. They've got enough firepower off the bench. He just seems more comfortable now with his decision-making. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe the team's success is making me see that, but it just seems like now everybody knows their defined roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously they were playing at a really fast pace with DeMarcus in the lineup, but ever since he's gone down, you've seen this team play pretty much the way Gentry wanted them to play once he got this job, obviously coming from the Warriors, where they were one of the fast-paced teams in the league when he got a championship with them. And they're moving the ball up and down the court. They're getting, like you said, 100 shots a game during this streak. And they're playing at such an incredible pace. This is the style that Gentry wants. He wants those guys to get up and down. He wants to get those shots from the perimeter. He wants AD to get those easy looks in the paint. And when you're playing this style, it's difficult for a lot of teams to keep up just because they're not going to have enough scoring on a night-to-night basis. If you're putting up 118, 122 every night, there are only so many teams that can get enough scoring just to keep up with you. And if they can keep this up, it'll be difficult for a lot of teams on their schedule to keep up with them and to put enough points to just be competitive. So I think that's a big part of it. And also just getting the rotation in order is big, but also just getting the guys you can trust. I think earlier in the season, they only had like maybe 4 or 5 guys that Gentry went into the nights that he knew he can really trust on a night-to-night basis. And now you've seen Ian Clark playing some of his best basketball of the season. Mirotic has been a really huge piece for the bench. And adding Emeka Okafor to the starting lineup so you can have Mirotic play with that bench unit has been huge, obviously. Darius Miller is playing really well off the bench. So they have a second unit that they can go to with AD and Drew on the bench. They can trust to hold the fort while those guys are resting, and they're staying competitive. And like I said, putting up huge scoring nights, even if Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday aren't playing that well, just because they're getting contributions from so many other guys on the team.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Follow him on Twitter at Will Guillory, and follow all of his great coverage of the Pelicans on the website and in our print editions. Hey, Will, great stuff as always. Appreciate the time on a Wobble Wobble Wednesday, my friend.
I appreciate you guys. Let's see if we can keep this thing going. Maybe undefeated the rest of the way. Yeah, that'll work for y'all.
I mean, I'm just going to wobble all the way to the NBA Finals. Why not? Why the hell not? Let's just do it.
Let's do it.
There we go. Will, that means you'll be hella busy. So I guess you'll gear up, my friend. All right, Will.
I won't mind. If we're going to the finals, I won't mind.
There you go. All right, Will. Great stuff.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Will.
it. Yep. All right, that's Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. I can't underestimate how well the Pelicans are playing. It's unbelievable. Like
I know.
I'm floored.
That's what I said. It's the most surprising turn of events since that 2006 season the Saints had. They were 3-13 coming off the Katrina season. Nobody saw that coming. And this team was 1-5 in the wake of Cousins' injury. And they played a dismal game against the Sixers. They were non-competitive. I think they scored 82 points in that loss. And they just looked uninterested. And then they go to Brooklyn. And like we said, they squander a 33-point lead. They pull that game out in double overtime and have not looked back since.
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, top of the 11 o'clock hour, we'll have Herbie Tiopi talking Saints. And don't forget, the biggest news possibly of your life, Clyde.
Probably not.
Probably the biggest news of your life.
Very likely not.
I'm already doing some research on this news. Huge news.
Stunner.
That we will bring to you, I'll say, the final segment of the show.
Well, let's make it clear, though, to listeners, it's not exactly going to change the fortunes of the Saints or Pelicans or somebody like that.
It might.
Oh, wow.
It might.
You're going out there.
You're going out there, and I don't believe you, so it's fine.
All right, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, Dunc Holder.